Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madame Matot is how the correct pronunciation. Is that true? Hello. I'm just asking you the correct pronunciation. It's Matot?
Méthode, oui, c'est ça, Monsieur Perkins.
Ça va, Monsieur Perkins.
Merci.
That's fine, Mr. Perkins.
The Cycle Capital owns shares in Ecarum, Alberta Biofuels.
Pouvez-vous reprendre?
Could you please repeat the question? I didn't understand.
I'm going to go through a list of companies. I'd like you to confirm whether or not Cycle Capital, any of your funds, has made investments in them. Ecarum, Alberta Biofuels, E-N-E-K-R-E-M. Do you have an investment in that? Yes or no?
Encare Alberta Biofuels is a company. We are an...
La réponse est non directe.
Well, the answer is no, not directly. We do not invest directly in them.
They're listed on your website, $12 million. MindSense Technologies, you've admitted here, you had investments in, correct?
Nous détenons moins de 10%.
We have less than 10% interest in MindSense.
Slush Fund. How about Spark Microsystems?
Dans le cas de Spark,
In the case of Spark Microsystems, I was not on, or when I was a member of the board, we weren't an investor. We only became an investor years later.
Vous êtes un investisseur.
on va répondre.
Sorry, I will give you a clear answer. Our investment began after I was a member, a board member.
Concentric Agriculture, Inc.
Oui, nous sommes investisseurs.
Yes, we are an investor in Concentric.
$2.6 million they got from the Slush Fund. Polystevert.
J'aimerais clarifier une chose.
I'd just like to clarify something, if that's possible. Mr. Chair, is that possible? Well, it's Mr. Perkins' time, so if he allows you to respond, yes. Mr. Perkins, do you let me? Go ahead.
We're looking for yes or no. Does Cycle Capital own any ownership of Polystevert, Inc.?
Oui, nous sommes.
Yes, we are investors.
$1 million from the Slush Fund. ViewReal.
Nous n'étions pas investisseurs.
We were not investors when I was on the board.
Are you an investor now?
Oui, l'investissement s'est fait en 2000.
Yes, in 2022, we invested, and then I had not been on the board for at least a year.
Sell your fuel?
No.
No.
Chrysalis Labs?
No.
Borealis Wind?
No.
These are the ones I think that were listed by the Auditor General you referenced earlier.
Non. En fait, dans le tableau que j'ai remis que vous n'avez pas reçu, monsieur.
In the table I gave you that you didn't receive?
Est-ce que je peux
I'm just double checking the General's list.
C'était ce qui était.
Alors, c'est Mr. Perkins qui a la...
It's Mr. Perkins who has the floor currently. He will be asking you questions. Now, what often happens is that if you want to say something, it's quite likely that another member here may ask you questions that you will be able to include your answer in, but that's how it works. However, Mr. Perkins is the one who has the floor right now.
I'll ask again. Chrysalis Labs?
No.
Chrysalis Labs? No. Borealis Wind? No.
Non.
Equisphere?
Non.
Global Spatial Technology?
Non.
Fractal Systems?
Non.
GHGSat?
Non.
Green Mantra?
Oui.
Yes.
Helen Inc.?
Non.
Hortu?
Non.
Metamaterials?
Non.
You're not an investor in metamaterials?
Non.
Never have been?
Never happened.
Peak Power?
Non.
So why are all these listed as conflicts of interest by the Auditor General?
Merci beaucoup pour votre question.
Well, thank you for the question. Here is how I proceeded during those years. I declared potential conflicts and real conflicts. So anytime there was a meeting of the board, we would be given a list. If we were analyzing a file, I would declare potential interests of conflict. But usually an analysis takes about 8 up to 15 weeks, depending on the cases at hand. But during these COVID relief measures, we decided that we wouldn't invest in these committees. And at times for years, so we weren't investing in those companies. And in fact, the Auditor General was very clear at the time in her report. And I'll try to quote her here. She said, during those 2 votes, in 63 cases, the members of the board had voted, even though they might have declared a potential conflict of interest. But in 2/3 of the cases, there were not conflicts of interest. And that was my case. So out of the 23 companies...
Thank you. Are you an investor in Terramera?
Non.
Advanced Intelligence Systems?
Non.
Seminos?
Non.
Pyrowave?
Non.
Okay. So you do have a number here where you received, and the companies you invested in received at least $10 to $20 million of green slush fund money while you were on the board.
Je m'excuse, j'ai mal.
I'm sorry, I didn't really understand what you were saying. Can you repeat?
Perkins, encore une fois.
So between the yeses and nos, there were a number of yeses here, and of those yeses, it adds up to about $20 million, I believe, of SDTC money that went to those companies while you were on the board. Is that correct?
Pendant mon mandat,
during my term, my tenure, we looked at about 250 files over the 5 years I was there, 4 businesses through programs during which I declared my interests or investments, and I recused myself. So there was $10.4 million, and we were...
Based on what the confirmation you had earlier. I'm not asking for a conflict of interest explanation of how the board operated. I'm asking for, based on your yes or no's, you have about $20 million here of companies that you had investments in while you were on the board.
Votre chiffre de 20 millions est faux, Monsieur Perkins. Votre chiffre de 20 millions est faux. Je vous demanderai d'écouter ma réponse.
Is incorrect. The number is incorrect.
To you, I'm sure.